Welcome to the KISC My Health Radio show series on Building Fortunes Radio. KISC My Health is brought to you by the universally recognized Cranberry King, Captain Cranman, Stephen Lukawski. Over the past 30 years, Stephen has worked with North American dietary supplement companies in the nutraceutical industry. His efforts and connections generate ingredient sales through innovative delivery systems and effective marketing and brand management strategies. Today on KISC My Health, Stephen is joined by guest host Peter Mingils. Make sure you check out previous KISC My Health episodes at www.buildingfortunesradio.com or KISCMyHealth.com. Along with our marketing partners, we are here to help our customers improve their health, build their businesses, and make the world a better place. At KISC My Health, we know how much your health and your business means to you and the people important to you. So spread the word, tell another friend, join our newsletter, and go make a difference in your world. Now, on to our show with your hosts, Captain Cranman and Peter Mingils. Take it away, Peter.
Hello, everyone. Peter Mingils here. You are listening to our KISC My Health Radio show on the Building Fortunes Radio Network. We are here every week with Stephen Lukawski, and I'm going to get into that in a second. This is a really special call because we have a lot of great people on this hosting our radio show. It's going to be a little bit on the unique side. And there's some special things going on, including the idea that we are recording this on Stephen Lukawski's birthday. So for those people that aren't familiar with Captain Cranman, it's his birthday today. You can welcome him. But if you're listening to this afterwards, he's going to be getting happy birthday remembrances. We got a huge fan in the background. So this is so cool. So I always like to go over quickly how this whole radio show got started. I was building a radio show platform with Building Fortunes Radio, started back in 2012 into 2013. I wanted a platform where we could showcase interesting things by interesting people, and I wanted the world to let people know about that. One of the guest speakers we had at that time is a gentleman. His name is attorney Jim Turner. Jim Turner was one of the original attorneys for Citizens for Health. They're a great organization. Citizens.org is still the domain name. And Jim and I did about a decade's worth of radio shows on Fridays when he wasn't in court or traveling, and they were some of the best radio shows, period. He talked about, health, nutrition, politics, everything, economics, everything related to different things. We learned so much from him. And then in January of 2022, he suddenly passed away. That really left a hole in my heart, I got to share with you. I was totally messed up for a little bit because I could always call Jim and ask him for his expert opinion on a lot of different things, and my mentor was gone. So I asked the Citizens for Health people to run or get me somebody else, and they took about a year or so to do that. I played replays on the Building Fortunes Radio Network platform for that long, and they brought me James Gormley. James Gormley was the president of Citizens for Health, and he was a great man as well, super knowledgeable. I found another mentor, if you will. I could call him up and ask him a lot of different questions, and we did a couple of radio shows together before he asked me to have a guest. And he says, "Can I have a guest on the radio show?" I said, "Of course." I said, "Who's your guest?" And he said, "Stephen Lukawski." And I said, "Okay, I don't know Stephen. As you know, I don't know a lot of people." So the reality was, he says, "Oh, he's great. He's known as the King of Cranberries, Captain Cranman," which, of course, flew over my head originally because I didn't know who he was. And I said, "Sure, let's do it. And you'll do most of the speaking, James." And he did. And I listened to that interview. It was great. It's still up on the Building Fortunes Radio platform. And then all of a sudden, Stephen mentioned something like he's got a LinkedIn. And I'm like, okay, I'll join that. And then he was doing some other things. And I'm like, okay, I'll follow him over there. And over the year, I kind of grew a relationship. You know how you get those social media relationships with somebody who you follow, but they don't really remember who you are kind of thing. So I was following Stephen Lukawski, positive posts and really great references. And when James Gormley suddenly passed away in August of 2024, I said, I got to do the right thing and reach out to people that I know knew him. And I called Stephen. He already knew because he was working with him at the time. We were both kind of like in shock and said, we got to do a memorial radio show. I said, of course. Can't have James Gormley not be known forever. And in the process of that conversation, I said something about our KISC training, KISC. And our KISC training from my world stands for Keep It Simple Circle. It's something that we train people on so they can manage their distractions and be more productive. Stephen jumped on that right away, the ever-creative person, and said, you know what we're going to do, Peter? I said, what's that, Stephen? He said, we're going to do a memorial for James Gormley. But I know a lot of people that are alive today, they need to have their stories told. We're going to run a radio show series called KISC My Health. And he was so excited about that. I love to run with people that are excited. Even if I don't know why they're doing it, I'm going like, okay, Stephen, let's go. But I said, Stephen, KISC, for me, stands for Keep It Simple Circle. What does the KISC for you stand for? He said, it's real simple. Peter, it's going to stand for Key Influencers and Super Champions. I know a lot of great people that need their story told. And I'm like, I'm all in. And then after a while, the KISS stood for besides Keep It Simple Circle and Key Influencers Super Champions, we started doing some interviews from people from Canada. So KISS now stands for, as a subheading, Key Influencers Super Canadians. And then every once in a while we have people from corporates. So it's Key Influencers and Super Corporations. So we do a lot of them. So I want to say thanks to those corporations that sponsor us. We have a couple of them. Steve will introduce them as well. I also want to say thanks to our listeners. We have passive listeners and active listeners. I think we have an active listener even as a guest speaker today, but Stephen will fill you in on that. And I want to say thank you to you guys for listening in, and certainly our corporate sponsors. So, Stephen, thanks for being here on your birthday on the KISC My Health Radio show.
Peter, thank you. And to our listeners out there, I hope you're having a fantastic day. We are going to have another amazing interview, but this is a special one, not because it's my birthday, but because my mom, who turned 91 on the weekend, I had a gift of time to spend with her. It was so special and great. I'm so grateful for the life she gave me. So this interview today is also about moms in general. Super moms up there. We wouldn't be here without you. Thank you so much. Yes, our listeners, we wouldn't have this show without you. So once again, thank you for tuning in and listening to KISC. Again, this show is not about products. It's not about services. It's not about corporations. It's about people. Supernatural champions in our industry, leaders, legacy leaders, difference makers, trailblazers, jet setters. These people have broken down the barriers to lead the way for the younger generations to follow their footsteps. In our interview today, is no exception. He's an inspiration to me. And he's been a pioneer, a visionary in the industry. And before I introduce this next guest, we also have another super guest who's attending and right now with us. And the reason why I say this is a special one because she is actually a listener on the from our audience. We've actually pulled a listener from our audience on the radio who's been following me on LinkedIn. And I said, wow, we got to have you on the show because from a listener's perspective, it's really great to hear, about that person and what this show means to them because we never get feedback from our listening audience. So we don't know, right? All we do is hope and pray that we are touching the lives of people who are going through maybe difficult times or giving advice to help them guide them through the ladder of life, both personally and professionally. So I will introduce that person too. But again, our corporate sponsors, thank you so much from Heather Weiner and the Charlie's Angels over at Whole Foods Magazine. Pure, the Pure Organic Sweetening Company, super leaders in that organic space for sweeteners. And we have Joe Bradley and the Step Change Innovation Team. Thank you, Joe, for your great work and sponsorship over the last several months. We've had to give thanks to RFI Ingredients for the past, and we have Pure Imidine Nutritionals. We've even had some really good sponsors in the past that are still with us and support, and I give thanks to them too. So without their support, we wouldn't be having this show, Peter. So this is really, it's a not-for-profit show. I just want people to know that we do our best to go out there each day. Peter doesn't get paid for this. I don't get paid. There's no monetization of this show. This is from the heart, not the wallet. So the people who come on the show also don't get paid. right? They're giving up their time, and their time is valuable to me. So without our natural product leaders, right, this show would not be possible either. So thank you for that. All right, so before we begin the introductions, let's take a first commercial break with Pure, the organic sweetener company out of Naples, Florida.
Perfect.
KISC My Health Radio welcomes our corporate sponsor, Pure Organic. What if reducing sugar didn't mean giving up the foods and drinks you love? That's the philosophy behind Pure, spelled P-Y-U-R-E, at pureorganic.com. Pure believes that if healthier food doesn't taste great, people simply won't stick with it. So they've created a full line of plant-based, organic, and organically sweetened sugar alternatives designed to deliver the sweetness you love without the sugar overload. From granulated sweeteners and liquid syrups to their powerful single-ingredient stevia extract, Pure makes it easy to sweeten your coffee, upgrade your recipes, and enjoy better choices without sacrificing flavor. And Pure is not just helping consumers at home. They also work behind the scenes with food, beverage, and supplement companies nationwide, helping brands reduce sugar while maintaining the taste, texture, and experience customers expect. With decades of expertise in food science and formulation, Pure is helping reshape the future of sweetness. Want to learn more about Pure? See their full line of products, discover their story, and explore what makes them different at pureorganic.com. That's P-Y-U-R-E organic.com. Visit pureorganic.com today and taste the future of sweetening. At KISC My Health Radio, we want to thank Pure for being our corporate sponsor. Now back to our show. Take it away, Peter.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Pure, for being our corporate sponsor, and you can actually hear that Pure interview on the KISC My Health Radio show. Stephen, back to you.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you to our listening audience out there. So let's start here. I am introducing two people to you today. A Hall of Fame award winner from Canada, right? And also I am introducing a super champion listener from our audience who I pulled into this radio show, and because this person has been following me on LinkedIn, has been really good and kind in making posts about the show, and I reached out and I found out what this show meant to her. And this is what it's all about when you hear the feedback from the listening audience, why we do this show. So let's begin. I first would like to introduce, this is a person 40-plus years in the natural product industry, a Hall of Famer out of Canada, born in the USA but living in Canada, Michael Theodor. Welcome to the show, KISC, Michael.
Hello, everybody from Vancouver, BC.
Beautiful Vancouver, because I am standing here right now on my birthday in Vancouver, and I'm looking out and I'm seeing the skies lit up. It's God at work. Beautiful. Beautiful spring day here in Vancouver, and I can see why you live here, Michael. It's just God's country. It's God's city. Beautiful area.
It's a good place.
Very
good place.
And then on the other side of me, I want to introduce to the world a super woman and a super champion, resilient, strong woman, Linda John Grace. Welcome to the show, Linda.
Thank you, everybody. So nice to be here. What a pleasure.
So imagine, sit back. This is going to be one of those amazing, fantastic shows that bring out a leader in the industry of over 40 years and a listener from our audience that's coming here on her own to share her journey as a success story with her career, but more importantly, with what she gets out of what we do. And this is exciting. So let's begin with Michael. So, Michael, people may not know who you are, but I do. But just for the benefit of our listeners out there, the reason why people are on this show, number one, is because they set the bar so much higher. They're extraordinary people. They're not ordinary. Right? These people basically have set the bar so high, that they become health coaches, wellness coaches, leaders in the industry, and they are true champions that I feel need to be recognized, because when they're gone, right? They're not replaceable. These leaders are North Stars. They're out there in this industry sacrificing, being servant leaders, making the right choices so the industry can continue on. So when I say this is a Hall of Famer person with Michael Theodor, it's because he's earned that. The sacrifices he's made, the brands he's represented, the consumers who benefited from Michael's hard work, and the relationships he's built over these years. It all came with a passion, true grit, and dedication in life. Now, Michael, just so you know, his background has led him to becoming a leader in the Canadian organic and natural product industry. He's been born into a business family in the U.S., and Michael learned from an early age from his father, a specialty food distributor, about service, accountability, and customer loyalty. In the days before cell phones, internet, fax machines, or any other technology would be taken for granted at that time. Theodor's family business had to ship orders from carnivals and circuses to an empty lot in a city or state far away, and it had to arrive on a specific day before the show rolled into town. All these skills and disciplines had strong impact on Michael. In the late 60s, when values and lifestyles were changing, Michael learned about nutrition, raw foods, yoga, meditation, and much more. This led to his interest in organic products. And when arriving in Canada in the early 70s, his vision for selling organic products turned into a budding business opportunity. In 1980, Michael started Michael Theodor Brokerage, Canada's first organic and natural products brokerage company. Michael's brokerage company launched many of the industry's biggest brands throughout the years in Canada, like Rice Dream Beverage, Silk, Jason Natural Cosmetics, Natrol, Avalon, Yogi Tea, Green and Black's Organic Chocolate, Nature's Plus Supplements, and many more, including the first PC organic product launch by Loblaws in 1987. In 2013, Michael sold his company and formed a consulting business now known as MT Consulting Services, which provides various levels of consulting to a wide variety of clients for supplements, organic foods, and organic commodities. His 40-plus years background in the organic supplement and natural products brokerage business brings industry depth to clients' projects. In 2006, Michael was the recipient of the Canadian Health Food Association Hall of Fame Award, Canada's highest industry award. Congratulations, Michael, on job well done. Michael enjoys mountain biking and open ocean mountain river swimming in Canada's beautiful British Columbia. Michael, welcome to the show. God bless you. What a journey so far.
Stephen, thanks for the wonderful intro. Happy to be here and be on your show. And I look forward to covering some of my background, which was very interesting in the organic and natural space.
And thank you, Michael. Take a step back. This is not my show. This is our show, Michael. Without you, I wouldn't be here. Okay?
Got it.
Right? And I'm touching your heart from here because I've known you for like 35 plus years. Right? And you've always been there for me, always been a guiding light for me. You've been inspirational. You know I've had other leaders, mentors. You've been a mentor from afar. And you've always been there every time I had a question. You always made time for other people, including me. And that's what I remember when I'm now moving forward in my, best years ever, which I would have to say they are today. All right, and I have to thank you for that. And you are true.
You're very welcome. And it's been my pleasure to be your colleague and friend and industry relationship.
Thanks, Michael. And I was Linda sitting, and listening to all this, and it's like, isn't it different, Linda, to sit in a room and actually hear what you've been hearing over the radio?
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's really fascinating.
Like she can see the energy. She feels the energy,
Absolutely.
Don't you?
Definitely.
Right? Yeah, and this is how we feel, Michael, when you're in the industry, because you have lit this industry up, in terms of bringing products in that didn't exist at the time.
Well, I was very lucky to be in the right place at the right time with the right vision. The timing was really quite good because the industry was really just starting.
Yeah. Well, let's go back in time, because I think perfect timing is when your mom and dad, right, gave birth to you and put you on this planet. All right? Because you changed the world forever the day you were born.
I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay. Well, let's wait for that. All right? Because the first question I'm going to give over to Linda. All right? And I'm going to ask Linda, ask you the first question, the interview question. Yep.
Okay, here we go. Are you ready, Michael?
Sure.
So the first question would be, where were you born? And I think you mentioned that, but you can repeat that again if you don't mind. And what was it like? What was your early family like? Your life as a child?
Well, I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and my parents were very hardworking. So a lot of the family focus was on the business. Even as a young child, I had to go to my dad's warehouse and do things like clean the toilet and the sink and stuff like that, sweep. So my father came from Vienna, Austria, so he didn't know a lot about American culture. He didn't know about baseball or football because he was European. But he worked very hard, and my mother worked as well. So that was the sort of the environment I was brought up in.
So the value systems, can you share with the listening audience, Michael, the value systems that your parents instilled upon you as a child?
Well, my father in business was very honest. He was very fair. He was very disciplined, and he didn't make mistakes. He was very accurate. Also, one thing that my parents sort of brought on was in my father's industry, which was carnival, circuses, outdoor amusements, parks. Like we were a supplier to a lot of big, like Ringling Brothers Circus, and my father was really careful about alcohol use, and he taught me that as a young boy, because in the carnival business, there was a huge amount of alcohol. So that stuck with me and contributed to my overall health when I got into the organic business.
And I think that's important. Now, what about your mom? What did you learn from your mom?
Well, my mom was a very hard worker. She worked in my dad's warehouse, typing invoices. There was no computers then, no fax machines, nothing. Everything was electric typewriter. And she worked very hard. At the end of her day, she would go take the bus home, stop at the supermarket, buy dinner, make dinner, clean up. They worked very hard. They were had very strong ethics, very honest. And, obviously I was an only child, so she was very happy to have me and tried to instill good values on me as a young boy.
Now, did your mom and dad have brothers or sisters?
No, I was the only child.
No, your mom. Did she have a brother or sister?
Oh, my mom had 5. Yeah, she had 3 brothers and 1 sister, which she outlived. She lived to 102, so she outlived her entire family.
Wow.
My father was a single child, was an only child in Europe, so he didn't have any brothers or sisters.
Okay. I'm from Europe. Well, born in Canada, but my background, my mom and dad, Polish, German, Austrian, Jewish, combination of a lot of things going on there. And Linda, your background?
I always say that I'm Italian, but I'm really half from kind of the southeast quarter of Italy, and the other half is Sicilian.
Right. So what is it? What is this European background, this hardworking resilience? Where does that come from? Because I think, the Europeans are very hardworking.
I do too. Is that a question for me? Part of it could be culture, but I also think part of it is generational. And the reason why I say that, Michael, you had mentioned that your dad had you kind of work with him, sweeping or what have you. And the question that kind of popped up into my mind was, that's so interesting. And how did that affect you and your work ethic as you grew up? Because I feel that a lot of that might not necessarily be happening today. And I wonder if that's a shift in some of the work ethics that we're seeing with some of our younger.
That's a really good question, because one of the things in the pre-computer world, when there was no computer, my father did double entry bookkeeping, and he did it by hand. He would go back to the warehouse at night and do his books after dinner, and he kept his books up to date to the day. He was the IRS came into his business 3 or 4 times, and back in those years, the same IRS inspector came each time. That would never happen today. And the guy said, I've never seen anybody who maintains their books as the way you do. My father's name was Henry. And so I took that, and when I opened up my brokerage business, my organic brokerage business, I would go in at night, I would work, I would set up different strategies for brands that we represented. At one point, we had over 50 brands. That's a lot to manage. And that was one of the things that stuck with me, is that he was so diligent with keeping his books current, accurate, and all of that. And that really was something I remembered.
Do you remember your first invoice that you sent to your customer? Do you remember your first customer?
I do. I remember.
You want to share that experience with us?
My first customer was a company in BC called AC Distributors. My first brand was a brand called Natural Nectar Products. It came out of LA. I happen to know the owner from my time spent in California living in Laguna Beach. And he hired me as a broker. I didn't even know what a broker was. He said, well, we don't have anybody in Canada. Why don't you be my broker? I said, okay. And that was my first brand. And he had these little sort of natural versions of Reese's peanut butter cups. And he had ice cream and ice cream sandwiches and all these delicious, beautifully labeled products. And I was able to open up AC Distributors as a distributor, and it was very small. If I sold a pallet, that would be a huge quantity. So AC Distributor became my first distributor, and yes, I wrote an invoice up for him. Actually, the Americans wrote the invoice, and I wrote the invoice for the commission.
By hand? By hand?
Probably by hand.
Or by hand, yeah. Because I remember, Michael, you're not going to believe this, but 30 years ago, my first customer was Jameson. And my first ingredient that I sold was ginseng, Canadian-grown ginseng. And back then, I did everything by hand. I had beautiful handwriting, so I might as well use it because I came out of university with handwriting. Because at that time, I didn't, it's like I didn't do any typing, right? And so anyway, my invoices were all, I still have them today. I kept all my invoices 30 years. They're still
I think I have an invoice book that you used to get at the stationery store. Yeah. And that's how I wrote invoices by hand, carbon copy, and then I would give the customer the invoice.
Yeah. Oh, do you remember your first employee?
Yes. I remember my first employee, yes.
How long did that person last?
Well, my first employee, let me think about this a minute. By the time I moved into a proper office, my first employee was a neighbor, a girl named Heather, and I had letterhead with the American letterhead, and I changed it into Canadian content. And whenever I would present the Natural Nectar products to Canadian companies, I would have her type up presentations and, introducing the products and then inserting color flyers. Their logo was a little stylized nectar honeybee. And, we had these little giveaways and all these things. So Heather Martin was my first employee, and she helped me out in the beginning.
Okay. Well, I don't know if she's still with us today, but thank you, Heather, because, Michael remembers you, so you must have made a great impact at that time. So
she lives on Salt Spring Island now.
Oh, wow. Well, isn't that great? Hey, Michael, you tell us about your education. All right. Some people are streetwise. Some people are academically wise. Right. Tell us about your journey and your education.
Well, I went to public school in Pittsburgh, and that was in grade school up to grade 6, and that was a pretty good experience. Things were very different then. It's nothing like it is today. And then I went to junior high school at a very big school in Pittsburgh called Alderdice that had over 3,000 students. And I didn't know it then, but I sort of had, what do they call it, ADT, attention deficit disorder. So ADD, when I was in school, I picked the things that I liked to focus on, and the things I didn't like, I didn't pay any attention to. My parents quickly caught on to this, and I got shipped off to private school in Southern Virginia, which happened to be a military school. And that was a good move for me because it was very disciplined, and there was a lot of things taught there that weren't in the public school in Pittsburgh where I went to, especially about the U.S. Constitution, Bill of Rights, a lot of American content. So I went there and I graduated in 1964. I went to university for a year or two. But when I went to university, I went to West Virginia. I found that I had more knowledge from my dad teaching me than the teacher was teaching in university. So it was quite boring for me. So then I just sort of shifted to street skills, and by the time I got into the industry, the organic and natural industry, I was able to use my skills, my street skills, better than my educational skills.
Yeah. And I think, do you feel as you're an entrepreneur, and there's many entrepreneurs who are listening to this show right now, right? What can you take away from that entrepreneurial experience that you can guide and advise others today, that helped you become successful?
Well, again, taking from my father's lessons, one, be responsible and take ownership with customers, right? Even if there's a mistake, handle things. One of the first jobs I had as a youngster, early teenager, was being a paper boy in Pittsburgh. I ended up doing so well, I had one of the biggest paper routes. I had like 125 customers or something like that. That's every day, wow, including Saturday and Sunday. And I learned a lot from being a paper boy, how to handle money, how to be responsible, how to interact with customers. And, that was a really good experience, even though it sounds nominal, but it really helped me, stay disciplined and do that job every day. Delivering 125 papers, rain, snow, or shine, taught you, I had a little wagon, I had a canvas bag, and I would run from house to house. Boom, 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 boom. And I had a few apartment buildings. Some of those apartment buildings had, say, 50 units, 70 units. I would take the papers in a bag, run, drop the papers, first floor, second floor, third floor, basement. Boom, get out of there, next building. I got really good at it. And that carried on into my next career, which was the organic and natural products industry.
Did the organic and natural product industry find you, or did you find it?
I think a little bit of both, because you have to understand then, the industry was very small, and there was very few distributors. For me to get a customer in Toronto, that was a big deal, like LifeSource and what was it called, Bright Life, all those beginning distributors. To land as the distributor was a big deal back in 1980. So I was lucky enough to have one really good brand, which was the Natural Nectar brand. I opened up a bunch of distributors, and then I got to thinking and said, I should get a couple more brands. So through the owner of Natural Nectar, he introduced me to another guy who managed a brand called Ice Bean, which was a frozen soy dessert. So I took that. Then I took another brand. Then I had a gelato brand. Then I had some snacks. And sooner or later, I had about 10 brands. And I had some decent distributors, and then things started to move forward.
Michael, this is really great. I do have a question. What accomplishments are you most proud of in your career? What has really stood out for you?
Well, here in Canada, the one of the brands that I took on was a organic tortilla chip brand out of the U.S., and she had Canadian labels at the time. Very few American companies had Canadian bilingual labels. So she hired me, and the biggest chain in Canada is a company called Loblaws. And I got in touch with somebody very high up at Loblaws, and Loblaws had no organic products, not one. So through these contacts at Loblaws, we set up a strategy that I would fly out to Toronto and I would meet the president of Loblaws, Dave Nickel. They told me what to do, where to meet him, and it happened to be in the elevator of the building of the head office. So I introduced myself to him in the elevator, told him about my organic chips, and he was like, well, I'm not sure about organic and blah, blah, blah. By the time we got to the 12th floor, we had a handshake, and in 6 weeks I had a PO for 50 truckloads.
Amazing. Cran-mazing. Tip-tastic.
Incredible.
That is, isn't that something?
And that became the number one organic product at Loblaws for many years. And I was very fortunate to do that and, land that big of a contract. And the other thing was, as things progressed on into the 80s, I took on a brand called Rice Dream. Rice Dream initially was a non-dairy dessert made with a certain kind of technology from rice. And it was a Japanese technology. And it was a big hit. And they hired me, and I put on additional distributors, and sales were pretty good. But then they developed a non-dairy beverage called Rice Dream Beverage using the same Japanese technology. And that became a huge hit in Canada. So much so that it became the number one CPG product in Canada for 10 years running straight, 10 years in a row. And when that product went on promotion 2 or 3 times a year, that was another 50 truckload sale.
And where is Rice Dream today?
Absolutely on the bottom shelf, owned by Hain. Nothing. It's had its time in the sun, and today it's really a nothing brand.
What did you learn from that experience with the CPG branding industry?
Well, first of all, things don't last forever. And secondly, there's always going to be competition. And thirdly, when things change, be prepared to pivot and look for something else to replace those kind of volumes, because those kind of volumes only come once in a while.
Michael, I think you said something very key here to successful entrepreneurs is knowing when to pivot, right? And that word pivot, it comes up in a lot of interviews, and I don't see it being taught anywhere, amongst the leaders out there with leadership training. And I think that when you do, I think it's a skill set that a vision, when you know something has a product life cycle coming to an end, and then that maybe there's an industry change, right? You know how some of these major these good, exciting brands get bought out by companies, and sometimes it just ends up on the bottom of the shelf. And
not only that, but in the beginning, in the 80s, the industry was very ethical. The health food industry as a whole was quite ethical. I got along with my competition. I had different competitors, New Age Marketing, a few others, and there was never any, how can I say, dishonesty. And then in the late 80s, a couple of players came into the market who had less ethics than the existing players in the market. And they basically, they would just steal brands. They would steal, if I had a $5 million brand, they would offer a lower commission or, you know, take them to the Blue Jays game or whatever. And then steal the brand. And I had a big staff. I had like 30 staff members full-time, and I had 300 part-time. So losing a $5 million brand was a big loss, especially if I had built that brand and they made it a success in the first place.
Yeah,
so that,
and then they get
that started to factor into how I ran my business, and I had to really get smart about contracts, agreements. I had very good contacts at Gowlings in Ottawa, and I was able to get really tight client contracts that sort of reflected my service levels, and it was based on service, not based on whether I gave the guy weed or not.
Yeah. And, you know, and for our listeners out there, like, doing business in Canada is much different than in the United States, in a sense that, you know, when you go to defend your position, you most likely have to do it in the province of a particular part of the country. Like, let's say, for example, you know, if you're in British Columbia and you got an issue in British Columbia, that's where you defend against, right? If you're in Quebec, then that's a whole different world. Is that not true?
It's like another country.
Yeah. So to our listening audience, thinking that they can come from the United States into Canada and just come with a sweeping idea that they're going to hit the shelf running and that they're going to have the same success story, what do you say to them?
Be very careful. Be very detailed. Cover all the details. Hire really good staff. Pay well. Pay on time. All the basics in doing those things. One thing I didn't mention with Linda is I didn't bring up my period in California when I was a hippie. I went to Mexico in the 60s, and I met all these California hippies, and I also changed my diet because I stopped eating meat just because it wasn't sanitary there, and took on a more vegetarian diet. And then after I was in Mexico a year or two, I moved to Laguna Beach, California, and that was between Berkeley, San Francisco, LA, and Laguna, and a little bit in San Diego. That was the start of the whole organic and natural products industry. Everything was very basic. Organic, maybe there was organic yogurt, there was oats, there was cereal, but it was very, very small. So when I moved to Laguna, there was a couple of health food stores, and I really changed my whole lifestyle, my diet, started doing yoga, got really healthy, met a lot of these players, and actually invested in a smoothie bar on Coast Highway in Laguna Beach. And that's how I got my start into the industry was in Laguna Beach, and investing in a smoothie bar that was a big success. And when I finally came to Canada, I brought some of that. I said, well, you know what? There's not much going on in Canada. The only thing that was going on was Livestream in Kitsilano. And then Livestream also had a warehouse on Heather Street. And it was very small, maybe 4,000 square feet. And I got hooked up with those guys, and then one thing led to another, and then my first company was Organic Connection, and that's when I brought organic fruit back from the Okanagan. I was the first guy to do that, and eventually each year it got bigger and bigger until it got so big that I couldn't even get any fruit anymore. The demand was so high. And I had
so interesting, Michael.
Organic apricots, organic peaches, organic apples, pears, plums, asparagus. I found all the organic growers. There was only 2 organic growers in the Okanagan Valley. Now there's about 202.
That's amazing how that evolved.
Yeah. So, Michael, tell us a little bit about, you won the Canadian Hall of Fame Award, and what was it like to receive that? And if you could share that with us.
Well, I was very, at the time, we had a president of the Canadian Health Food Association, a woman who had done big management jobs, especially in China. She was the vice president of Coca-Cola China, and she was very knowledgeable. And she invited me on a business trip to promote Canadian organic products in Hong Kong. And me and her went to Hong Kong, and we had very good connections with the Canadian consulate, and introduced us to a lot of customers. I sold organic oats over there. I sold other grains, fairly big quantities, container loads. So I had a good relationship with her, and when it was time to appoint these awards, she put me down as Hall of Fame. I had no idea. So it was a big recognition, because up until today, 2026, no other Canadian broker was ever picked for the Hall of Fame. I was the only one. And I think the reason for that was... Thank you very much. She
earned that, man. That's good.
Well, she saw what was going on in the industry and what I was doing to create that leadership. And, you know, it was very interesting at that time, because there was a lot of opportunities happening. I got lucky just bringing in the right brands. And then I would go to the Expo West show. I started going there in 80.
California, yeah.
And so going to the expo, so I would go down there and, you know, introduce myself. I would have a nice presentation, like a PowerPoint, and would introduce myself to some of these bigger lines. In the beginning, I never thought that I would ever get some of these brands, because they were already doing 15 or 20 million in the States. So that would mean in Canada they could do $2 or $3 million. But I was successful in that, and I introduced them to my staff members and showed them how we worked, and ended up getting the brands and opening up distribution. And that was a big breakthrough. I was probably one of the few brokers doing that and landing those brands and building that kind of business. So very quickly, I probably turned to about $25 million in business. And when I sold MTB in 2013, I was at about $50 million.
Well, from ground zero. That is
from
zero.
That
is fantastic. Yeah. Zero
and
to
that
hero.
was one of my other things.
That's right. Say zero to hero, my friend.
One of my answers for Linda is to make sure you get a good credit line, because as you build those brands, you have to staff up. And when you staff up, you need the funds. And I was lucky I was very careful about what kind of credit line, because at that point, the risk was also very high when you had these unethical operators stealing $5 million brands.
That's crazy. Crazy.
Yeah.
So, well, let me just share something, Michael. Let's hold it for a second. We talk about awards. I want to we talk about success stories. Linda, if you don't mind, I would like to mention a couple things, because I know, Linda, you have a special place to go today. Linda is here in Vancouver to celebrate an award that her son is going to receive. Her son has been invited from Brooklyn, New York, where he owns a cocktail restaurant bar called Bar Madonna, and he's been voted in the top 50 bars in North America, and will be receiving an award here in Vancouver after only 2 years of being in the business, Michael.
And imagine all the cocktails.
Yeah, Brooklyn, New York.
New York City?
Started the business. The awards are here in Vancouver, but they took the top 50 bars in North America, right? And he's in that top 50.
Wow, that's
where he ends up, I don't know.
Accomplishment.
Yeah,
he probably uses a lot of natural products in those cocktails.
Yes, yeah. A lot of them. And so I'm just going to share this with you because we talk about resilience, which you exemplify. We talk about courage and confidence, which you exemplify. And I am looking at this woman sitting beside me, Linda Grace John, all right? And I'm sure her son has picked up some of these traits of hers, all right, to be able to do, how young is he now?
He's 33. He turned 33 in January.
At 33 years of age, right?
And he's
open up a bar.
He's right in New York City. He's right in Manhattan.
Yeah,
Brooklyn.
In the borough of Brooklyn. That's one of the 5 boroughs of the city.
Yeah.
Okay.
For listeners out there, it's called Bar Madonna. Bar Madonna. And Madonna's been there?
Madonna showed up one day, yes.
Yeah, and the Yankees go there too?
Yeah, the Yankees frequent coming in as well. And my son always wears a Yankee cap. That's his trademark. You'll always see him in a Yankee cap.
Maybe he should invite your new mayor there.
Your new mayor?
Yeah.
In New York.
Yeah, maybe he should.
Yeah. Hey, I also want to say one thing, because I know that Linda has to run here. That Linda, you asked Michael about his accomplishments in his career path, and you shared with me one of your major accomplishments that you have done in Canada, in the world. Like, first of all, Linda is an accomplished social therapist.
Social worker, yeah.
Yeah, social worker, and is licensed in the state of New York.
Right.
And but her career didn't start there. Her career started in the radio?
I sold radio time, broadcast time for a good 15 years.
Yeah. So what do you remember the most that you can share with Michael and with Peter, that in Canada, traveling back and forth, what you did?
Well, at the time, although I had started my career in New York, I had moved up to open up an office up in Boston, Massachusetts, and Canada had become one of my territories. And in any event, I had the good fortune of connecting with the advertising agency for a game called Balderdash, and it was out of Canada, out of Toronto. And so I found myself traveling between Boston and Toronto quite often. And in fact, we kicked off an entire promotion for Balderdash with radio stations nationwide in the U.S. To promote the game. And we really launched the game when it was brand spanking new. So, so that was kind of like my claim to fame in the in the radio broadcast sales industry. Before I went to NYU and got my master's in social work. So I made a little pivot there. Talk about pivots. But it was interesting.
Very good.
Fun.
Thanks for sharing
that was a fun career, I have to say. So.
What's that, Michael?
I just thank Linda for sharing that.
Do you remember the game Balderdash?
I do. I can't say that I ever played it, but I do remember it.
Yeah, it was like the same pathway as Trivia Pursuit, right? At that time.
Yeah.
And the same era, I think. And so it's a part of your childhood where you don't play many games anymore these days, do we? But Linda, I know that you do have to go, and I thank you for stopping in and sharing your time with us.
Thank you so much. It was so nice to meet all of you as well, Michael. Thank you, and Peter. Yeah. And I appreciate the time.
And I appreciate your time too. Yeah. So let's go for a commercial break here, Peter, and let's take it away with Joe Bradley of the Step Change Innovation team.
So Step Change Innovations is the company. StepChangeGo.com is the domain name. We'll be right back.
Here's a word from our sponsor, Step Change Innovations. Selling science-backed ingredients is tough. No one understands that better than industry veteran Joe Bradley. For over 20 years, Joe has blazed trails in selling science-backed ingredients into emerging markets. He's seen the challenges firsthand. The long sales cycles, the regulatory maze, and the struggle to turn groundbreaking science into retail success. That's why he dedicated his career to overcoming these hurdles. At Step Change Innovations, we're on a mission to make that journey easier for you. Whether you need expert regulatory guidance, a launch strategy that transforms your ingredient into a premium consumer product, or an outsourced sales program that fills your pipeline with quality leads, we've got you covered. Imagine your innovative ingredient not just as an idea, but as a proven, market-ready product displayed on shelves, building trust with every customer, and driving real sales. With our deep industry expertise and a robust network of suppliers, retailers, and co-manufacturers, we turn challenges into opportunities and accelerate your path to market. If selling your science-backed ingredient feels like an uphill battle, let's change that. Schedule a conversation with Joe Bradley to talk through your sales challenges and brainstorm ways to overcome them. Whether it's refining your strategy, securing retail placement, or building a sales pipeline that actually delivers, we're here to help. Visit StepChangeGo.com to connect today and take the first step toward getting your ingredient on shelves faster and easier. At KISC My Health Radio, we say thank you to Step Change Innovations for being the sponsor of this podcast. Now back to our show. Take it away, Peter.
And we're back. Peter Mingils here and Michael Theodor with Stephen Lukawski on our KISC My Health Radio show. Stephen, back to you.
Thank you. We thank Linda Grace John for joining us, and as our first ever listing audience person coming on live to share their experience with us and to ask questions for Michael Theodor. And maybe I just want to reach out to those listeners out there. If any one of you want to come on, just let me know, all right, and share your experience with us and what the show means to you, and which would greatly help us, all right, because this is a not-for-profit, and if we don't hear from you, then we really don't know what this show is about and then how it's helping you. And Linda, before you do go, and I know I know that you're pressed for time here because you have a big award for your son today, with that Bar Madonna restaurant. I hope he finishes right up there to be in the top 50 in the world, right? North America.
North America.
That's great. So, what does the KIS show mean to you as a listener?
Well, what intrigued me when I first started listening and was not only what I'm learning about people's industries. Because as I mentioned before, it wasn't familiar to me, the nutraceutical business and all that. But what I love hearing is everyone's journey. It really says a lot about the individuals, how they become successful. As a social worker, obviously, I kind of think that way. And, so it's just fascinating to me about what have you learned? What did you learn from your parents and your experiences? How did that help you in your career and your journey and through obstacles and things of that nature? And I think those are really good lessons, especially for younger people today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you were sharing with me, about your journey, all right, personal journey. Mm-hmm. And when you hear the show, we have so many leaders that come on, and this is not just a silver spoon ride. This is about hard work, effort, true grit,
right,
determination,
right,
and overcoming obstacles
mm-hmm.
and challenges and adversity at the same time.
Yeah.
Do you want to share a little bit about yours?
Yeah. Well, through obviously professional and personal obstacles in your life, you'll have them, right? It's you're never going to avoid having them, but it's what do you do with them? And I think the ability to kind of move forward, to acknowledge what you went through, what were the lessons that you might have learned from those experiences and hard knocks, but how do you take that and be better? How do you take that and move forward, and on to the next thing? So I think, the element of resilience is really important, and I think that we all have it. It's just a matter of what do we do with it? And so, listening to yourself, Michael, and other people on this interview that Stephen and Peter do, I think it's really important just to kind of see where they've come from, what are the things that they've had to deal with, and how they overcame them. So I think those are wonderful lessons that we can all learn from.
And health-wise, too, because I think health-wise, we're all healthy until we don't know what's going on inside us.
Right.
All right, and that challenge that we have, and health is our wealth.
Well, as I mentioned before the show, I'm an almost 20-year survivor of cancer. And, when you're going through that, obviously part of you thinks, oh, my gosh, how did this happen to me? But, I think part of it, a big part of the healing process is the mind element. It's kind of like that mind-body connection, and we hear it all the time, but I don't know that we believe it all the time, but I think it's very true. And so you need to just say, for me, there was no option other than getting well, and my kids were younger and just moving forward. And so I think that, those are important experiences as well in your self-healing and your health, just being healthy.
Yeah, I find that I look for the positive. I congratulate you for your journey, and I'm glad to hear you're cancer free. God bless you.
Thank you
for that. And I just for those who are listening out there, if you're going through those personal struggles, just know we're praying for you, and we're out there, and we all want you to be healthy. But it all starts, from. I think it really does is how you handle stress too, mm-hmm. and how you handle those challenges and that adversity, and not to take it personally because it'll eat away at you. And the stress is really part of that issue. And the people you socialize with, that they're positive people, that they inspire you, and that they're not dragging you down in their own personal problems. And because everyone has a firestorm that they go through in life. And I love your passion that you want to help others and lift them up and guide them, while at the same time while protecting your own,
the one thing I would like to say is, sometimes that resilience is more difficult for some people than others, right? And so you can't just say, okay, I'm going to bounce back and I'm going to get there. I think it's important to just recognize that sometimes it's okay to go one step at a time, one day at a time. Take little pieces and have those small accomplishments, because when you have a lot of little accomplishments, then it becomes a big accomplishment, and that's professionally and health-wise, I think. So there's nothing small enough that you can't feel good about. It's just a matter of taking one day at a time, one small thing at a time. So I think that's important to know.
Yeah. Michael, would you like to add to any of this?
Well, now I'm a cancer survivor, and I have to agree with all of Linda's comments. Cancer was a big surprise to me. I was perfectly healthy for 80 years of my life, and then this thing came, and it was a big surprise because there was no warning or anything. So take care of yourself. I had to get into the whole BC cancer, the procedures, chemo, other drugs that I would never take ordinarily, and now I'm free of cancer.
But you're right, we don't know what's going on inside our bodies, do we? As healthy as we are from the outside, we have no idea what's going on the inside.
In August, the way I found out about cancer was a tumor built in my arm. I had no idea this was going on. And I was in my car, and my bone snapped. And finally, I went to the hospital, and they figured out that the type of cancer I had goes for blood marrow in the bone, and it lodged there, became a tumor, and then snapped the bone. So I had this huge broken arm with a swelling as big as a baseball, and that's how I found out I had cancer.
Well, thank goodness you're doing well. And, I just want to say one other thing that I think is really important. It's very important for all of us to be proactive in our health. Even when we think we're healthy, you have to stay as we age, and you have to stay on top of things. And I think that's really important. And the other last thing I just want to say about it is, so often you might have an inkling that something might be wrong, but we want to kind of sweep it under the rug, or we're afraid that it's going to be something more serious, and we don't want to hear about it, and so we don't do anything about it. And so, I've done a lot of work in the cancer world, a while ago, and the one thing I used to always say is, don't be afraid, be aware. Because when you catch something early, if you're going to get cancer or anything else for that matter, you're going to get it. And sweeping it under the rug isn't going to help. So it's important to follow up and make sure you find things early so that they're treatable and curable and all that. So don't be afraid, be aware, and just take care of ourselves.
Good, very good advice, Linda. Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah. So once again, Linda, I know you're out the door. My apologies. I just had to grab you for one moment, and
no worries. Thank you so much.
Thank you for all the great work you do in this world, and the world needs you, and just don't lose that smile. It just brightens up everybody's life in a positive way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So nice. Thank you. Take care.
So, Michael, let's go into the world of mentorship. Let's talk about mentorship. Who has been a mentor in your career that you like to acknowledge?
Wow. Caught me off guard there. Well, I can say my original brand owners. See, the difference in mentorship for me, being as old as I am, is when I got into the industry, let's say using 1980 as a marker, everybody in the industry was a lifestyler. They were all into the same things. They were into yoga. They were into good diet. They were into staying healthy. It wasn't just about business. A lot of the mentoring that I got originally was from those owners who found that path themselves.
Yes.
And so I got to meet them, work with them, become part of their team, and the features and benefits of what they were getting, not only from the business, but from the lifestyle, would trickle down, and I would learn that, and now they would become mentors.
Now, I think a mentor, let's define mentorship. For me, a mentor is someone that I look up to, yes, but also someone I learn from, right? Or someone that can help me understand where I fit in, all right, into my career, but also help me professionally and personally in my life. And I got to mention a couple on my side that and I will never forget them. They're always part of my life journey, personally and professionally. Is Willie Pelzer from Sunny Crunch Foods, and the granola king back then. The Dave Nichols, you mentioned Dave Nichols back then. That and of course Willie Pelzer was the president of the Canadian Health Food Association for many years, and also he bought into that, right? Paid his own money to keep that association going with a few other people, and really have opened the doors up, and Jim Miranda, the president of Swiss Herbal Remedies,
is Dean Yatchison.
Mm-hmm.
One of my mentors.
Dean would say, but Dean would say my mentor would be John Holtman, all right, or Siegfried.
Yeah, but
right.
But Dean was very inspirational to the retail community. Yes.
Yeah, and I know what I admired about Dean was his resilience of being able to take his back pain, and that he couldn't hardly walk, and then the sacrifices he made on his own body to be able to go out there and personally, because of his passion of helping others, overcame those obstacles. And but you're right there.
He started at Vita Health sweeping floors.
Yeah, but hey, let's give credit to Vita Health for recognizing the talent and grooming him for the industry. The John Holtman.
Fully agree.
That time.
Fully agree.
Okay. All right. They recognized talent and they brought that person into this industry. And if we don't have those people who recognize talents, right, and that's what we're trying to do as leaders. Find those rising stars out there in our industry that they can become the next Michael Theodor, right? It's like I know you're a legend yourself, and you've created your own footsteps, but we need someone to follow your steps while creating their own. So we really need to go out there and be our own. We become the scouts, all right, of looking for people that could step up and lead this industry, or we're going to lose it. I truly feel that the Canadian Health Association is losing it.
Things are different now. It's a very different. It's just everything has changed. The way business
in a positive
is done,
way, Michael.
Not always positive.
No.
Not always positive.
No. One thing I don't want to do, and this is why this show exists, is to remember those who opened up the doors and paved the way. And we have to remember the Hall of Famers out there, all right? And it's a shame that we don't. And it's a shame in the U.S. and in Canada that when we go to these trade shows, if it's in the supplement industry, for example, there's no Hall of Fame that you walk into at these trade shows that have pictures of people.
Yeah.
Right? That who have moved on and are still in our hearts and have accomplished so much for us to be able to do what we do today.
But a lot of those people
I don't want to forget those.
In my age group have either retired and they're out of the industry or they passed away.
Yeah, that's right. I'm not talking about the ones who have passed away. right? Like the ones that have moved on and don't want to really come back in our industry, that's fine. They did your job. You wave your flag and you move on. That's fine. Great. But the ones like yourself, you had 80 years of young age out there, still wanting to contribute, still going out there, being an inspiration, a beacon of light, right? To me, I look at that and I go, wow. I want it. I still want to give. I still want to go out there and make a difference. I'm not going to let younger people who don't know who we are, what we've done, define what our next 5-10 years is going to be like. We're going to define it. There's no room for silver spoon rides out there. You're not going to take our book of business. You're not going to take our relationships and ride off of it, right? And and I think that and I think you've earned all your relationships. Those are your relationships, Michael. Right? And it's and those.
I agree.
I think the younger kids today need to get out there, make their own connections, do their own networking. Don't rely on somebody else who's been around 20, 30 years and ride off of their coattails. Build your own book of business.
Very true.
And that's the advice I'm giving. To the veterans out there, don't let others take away your relationships. Those are your connections, your business. You control that. Right? You've worked.
Very well said.
People do business. Yeah. Because I know, Michael, you had 50 key accounts. Right? They trusted you. That's why they did business with you. They like you. That's why they did business with you.
Well, and I got results, right?
Yeah. Right. But you know what? Let's face it. And I know you're very humble, and I respect that so much about you. But they saw you, all right, as part of their team for the future. They trusted you, their hard work and efforts, that you could take them to the next level, which you did. Right?
Which I did until they sold the brand.
Yeah. But you found that you were fit for purpose, though. You're fit for purpose. They hired you for their purpose.
Yeah. Well, it's been, let's see, we're at 1 hour and 45 minutes. Is there anything else you wanted to cover, Stephen?
Well, I'd like to ask you one more question.
Sure.
What advice would you give your younger self at 18 years of age?
Well, that's a good question. I would say do things you believe in. Treat everybody fairly. Don't be afraid to make a profit. And take ownership for what you do.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Michael, well said. And Peter, do you have any questions for Michael?
No, I find this a fascinating interview, and I'm glad Michael was here, and it was really nice to have our guest listener in as well. So, no, it was great. So thank you so much. Michael did a great job. And Michael's
thank you. Thank you for inviting me on. Always great spending time with Stephen. And really appreciate going over some of my career highlights.
Oh,
great information,
Michael. No, it's you're a legend. You're a North Star, and I thank you so much for your valuable time that you've given us today to let the world know about what you've accomplished, and God be with you in the rest of your journey, and I just want to say thank you for just being a superhuman being, in addition to your career accomplishments.
Thank you, Peter. Welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right. And to our listening audience out there, we thank you. we thank you because if this show does not exist without you, but more importantly, we thank you for tuning in, and whatever you get from this show, just remember to go out there. And remember, we don't know what's happening in other people's lives when we meet them. We have no idea what's going on in their world. So just be good, be kind, and treat others as how you want to be treated, right? And that's all I'm asking out there. It's just be that supernatural kind person, like with that giving heart. Thank you once again to listening in on KISC My Health Radio. Take it away, Peter.
Perfect. So I'm going to make sure that in the show notes we have domain names. Michael Theodor doesn't have an E at the end, so it's THEODOR, and you'll be able to see his website on mtconsulting.ca because he's a Canadian guy now. So MT, like Michael Theodor, consulting.ca. And just for fun, I want to say thanks to Linda for being here. Her son's restaurant's domain name is barmadonna.com. So barmadonna.com. You can take a look at the restaurant. You can take a look at the menu, which is fun. I love it. He's over in over in Brooklyn. He's got some snacks there too. Mashed meatball parm is Wednesday. Is there? And I think Cafeteria Day is Wednesday.
Definitely so.
So just love that stuff.
It's a super head.
Yeah, I gotta like it.
Some of the Yankee players, are just loving it over there. So hard to get them back into the field. All right, so
that's good.
But yeah, well, imagine top 50 bars. That's crazy. All right,
that's great.
So
yeah,
great.
For all us Mets,
only 2 years in the business. So
yep, for all us Mets fans, make sure those Yankees get loaded up there. But go ahead. You were going to say something.
Yeah, and for Michael Theodor, you can find him on LinkedIn. All right, also. And for Linda Grace John, you'll find her on LinkedIn, and you can see all of her accomplishments that she has done in her career. It's so nice to be able to have somebody reach out to us, Peter, from the audience,
absolutely,
to be able to want to come on and share her experience about the show. So it's beautiful. It just makes it all worthwhile, doesn't it, Peter?
Yeah, it sure does.
Think about
give a shout out.
Why we're doing this show.
I get a lot more feedback than you do. So because people, my listeners call in and they just love this radio show with all the great things that are going on. So I get a lot of feedback because we talk actively with our listeners. So if you're listening in, make sure you go check out Stephen Lukawski's LinkedIn and direct message him over there. Tell him how much you love the show. And Stephen, thanks for being here. We're going to let you go back. Happy birthday one last time. And then, Michael, thanks for the wonderful things that you've done. Congratulations on your new health recovery. And thanks for all the things that you do and we never talked about relative to, progressing the organic, product lines that you did when no one knew what they were all about, and pioneer in that industry as well. And thanks for our corporate sponsors, Pure, as well as Step Change Innovations. And thanks for you listening in, our active and our passive listeners. And we're going to catch everybody next time on KISCMyHealth.com. Thanks, everyone.
You've been listening to the KISC My Health Radio show on Building Fortunes Radio. Thanks for listening. This KISC My Health Radio show is brought to you by Stephen Lukawski. Stephen is known as the Cranberry King, universally known as Captain Cran. Stephen has over 30 years of experience working with manufacturers and marketers of dietary supplements and natural ingredients to make this world a healthier and a better place. You can check out Stephen Lukawski on LinkedIn and on the KISCMyHealth.com website. We are glad you listened in. Spread the word and check out previous KISC My Health Radio episodes. Bye for now. It's been our privilege to have you listen in. At Building Fortunes Radio, we wish you the success you deserve and are willing to work for. Now go make the world a better place.